So thank you, everybody. Um, so I was asked to do the meditation as well as the talk. So let's just spend a few minutes calming our mind before the talk. So please put your feet flat on the floor. Sit up straight. Yeah, and your hands in your lap, the right on the left, the thumbs are touching like this. Yeah, adjust your microphone accordingly. And lower your eyes and become aware of your breath. So just let your breathing pattern be whatever it is. And observe it. Observe what happens as you inhale, as you exhale. Observe if there's a pause after the inhalation or a pause after the exhalation. And while you're observing your breath, be aware of how it connects you to the rest of the universe, how all of us breathe the same air. And be aware of how the breath is nourishing your body. And at the same time, the breath is changing in each nanosecond, never remaining the same. Just be aware of that for a couple of minutes. If you get distracted, bring your attention back home to the breath. then slowly open your eyes and come out of your meditation. So I thought to comment a little bit on the song that we just sung. Those of you who come in the previous years when I've taught know that I often do this. One time it was a Janis Joplin song, yeah, which had a very different meaning for me now than it did when, I was younger. So I was listening to the one of as we're sowing, as we're sowing, we are reaping. And this is very much the Buddhist meaning of karma, yeah, that all of our actions, what we say, what we do, even what we think and feel, yeah, leads to results that we ourselves experience. So it makes a lot of sense, as they usually say, what goes around comes around. But whenever we face some adversity, our first reaction isn't, well, of course, I must have created the cause. Our first reaction is, who made this happen? Who can I blame? Isn't it? Yeah. First response. Our first responders, our internal first responders, aren't the good guys. It's the mind that says, it's somebody else's fault when I'm unhappy. Yeah. Or what did I do to deserve this? As I remember my mother saying that quite often. What did I do to deserve a child like you? She said that when I was naughty, not when I was good. Yeah. Actually, I've often thought of writing a book of slogans of my mother. Yeah, it'd be a pretty juicy one. Yeah, but when we're unhappy, we say, what did I do to deserve this? Or when we're happy, we never say, what did I do to deserve this? Do we? We take it for granted and we say, the universe owes me more. I want more. Yeah. And yet intellectually, we're quite comfortable saying that we reap what we sow and that we create the causes for our experiences. But that's intellectually. When it gets down to push comes to shove, we really have some difficulty accepting that perhaps we were involved in creating the cause for whatever misery we have. Or that we were likewise involved in creating the cause for whatever happiness we have, and to be able to respond from a spiritual place in both of those situations. Yeah. So one situation that I often think of that's quite easy for me to see this in is when I get criticized. Okay? Now, if you're anything like me, you hate criticism. At least the criticism that's directed towards me. Yeah, the criticism that's directed towards people I don't like, that's okay. Yeah, you can go ahead and criticize the prez all you want. I'm with you, but don't criticize me. Okay, but yet I get criticized. Now, can you imagine that? Sweet, charming, benevolent, good-hearted person like me, and these people misunderstand me and criticize me. Outrageous, isn't it? Yeah, don't you feel the same way when you get criticized? Yeah, this isn't fair. I didn't mean any harm. It's all their fault anyway. that this argument started, and it's their fault that I'm unhappy. And my anger is because of them too. Yeah, in other words, I have no responsibility for my anger. This person made me angry. Yeah, like their words were a virus. And as soon as they hit my ear, I got the disease of anger. Yeah. If we really are following, the lines that we just chanted here, we wouldn't be thinking like that. Okay? So about criticism, when I compare how many times I get criticized by others to how many times I criticize others, which for you is greater? The amount of times you get criticized or the amount of time you dish out criticism? Well, I don't know about you, but when I'm honest with myself, yeah, the more numerous is the times I criticize other people. Yeah. I don't think a day goes by when I don't criticize somebody. But many days can go by without me getting criticized by somebody else. So if I think along this way, is it unfair that I got criticized? Actually, I'm getting off light because I dish out the painful words much more often than I hear them. Yeah. So why am I blaming other people if, in actual fact, I'm not experiencing all the results of the nasty words that are said to other people? Yeah. And why am I so surprised when people criticize me if I look at how I've spoken to other people throughout my whole life? Yeah. So this really makes me stop and think. Also, when I get criticized, if I can really hold the responsibility for my own experience of, feeling pain at hearing adverse words directed towards me, insulting words directed towards me, if I can hold that, and say, if I don't like this result, then I've got to stop creating the cause for this result. So if I don't like being criticized, I have to be much more careful about what I say to other people, because all the criticism I dish out is creating the cause for that criticism to come back to me. There's a book downstairs called Good Karma, and it's available on the table. And it's based on a poem written by a 9th or 10th century Indian sage named Dharmarakshita. And it's a poem about, if you're experiencing this, this is the kind of action you did that created the cause for it. Yeah, it really makes you go, yeah. So for the question of what did I do to deserve this, read the book. Yeah, Dharmarakshita spells it all out to us. Yeah, what we did to experience certain kinds of unpleasant things in our own life. Yeah. And then to really learn from that experience, saying, okay, I don't like the result, I'm going to stop creating the cause. And then change our behavior. Mm-hmm. So changing our behavior is a challenge, isn't it? Yeah, we have so many habits, habitual ways of seeing the world, habitual emotions, habitual speech, habitual actions. We're very much creatures of habit. And yet, so many of those habits actually imprison us and are the cause of our misery. And yet, sometimes we're very reluctant to give up these bad habits. Because if I give them up, who will I be? Yeah. If I give up my hypercritical mind that likes to point out other people's faults, who will I be? Yeah. If I give up my habit of evaluating situations by, do I fit in or don't I fit in? Or what race are these people and what race am I? What religion are they? What religion am I? Who did they vote for in the last election? And who did I vote for? That's the big one now that discriminates people, And if I have those ways, habits of that's the lens, through which I see other people, yeah, I'm creating division in my own mind. And I'm going to reap the result of that mind that creates division. Yeah, even though it just seems like an innocent habit. So to become aware of, our experience, not only our happiness, also our suffering, and then to think of the kind of actions that we've done, either in this life or if you believe in previous lives like I do, actions we've done in previous lives that bring about what we experience, then everything that happens is an opportunity to learn. And everything that happens to us is an opportunity to go back to the first song that we sang. Okay, I think it was on 243, was it? Yes. Okay, so in the first song it said, I would be true for those who trust me. For there are those who trust me. Not I'm true just for the people who trust me, and for everybody else, forget it. It's, I'm true for those who trust me. And I want to make myself into a trustworthy person. Yeah. So how do I make myself into a trustworthy person? What is a trustworthy person? Does a trustworthy person always speak the truth? Or do they speak the truth when it's kind and not speak the truth when it's unkind? Or do they speak the truth but find a way to make it kind, even though it's going to be hard for the other person to hear? And how do we know when we're speaking the truth and it's not a personal opinion? Yeah, because we usually think all of our personal opinions are the truth. They are, aren't they? We would never believe anything false. So everything I believe is true. Wrong. Yeah, but that's what we think. So to really spend some time, what does it mean to speak the truth? And what does it mean to be a trustworthy person? Yeah? It's just it's like how many words here? Not very many, but there's a whole lot in there to contemplate. Yeah? And so I'm sending you home with some questions to think about, because I think these are important in our life. Okay, I would be pure for there are those who care. I would be pure. What does pure mean? Yeah, there's a lot of different kinds of purity. I usually think of pure in terms of having a good motivation. Yeah, so I am pure in my motivation because there are those who care. Well, actually, the whole world cares. Yeah. Those who care doesn't mean they care about me. It means they care about the world. They care about themselves. Yeah. So since everybody wants happiness, nobody wants suffering. If I can have a pure motivation towards others, a motivation of kindness and benevolence, that is a way of honoring what is important to them, their care. Okay. I would be strong, for there are those who suffer. Yeah. This comes back to your inspiration, yeah, which was so beautifully done. Thank you. Of, when things are falling apart around us, are we going to let ourselves fall apart with everything else? Yeah. What good does that do? Yeah. Just falling apart and saying, this, what's the phrase? The world is going to hell in a basket, in a handbasket, yeah? So that gives me permission to just stick my head in the ground and not care because there's nothing I can do. Yeah, many people feel like that. Yeah, this song is saying, I would be strong for those who are for there are those who suffer. Okay, so when we see suffering, when we see things that aren't going right, do have a strong heart and mind and speak up about it, but with kindness, with compassion. We don't have to be angry to speak up against injustice. Yeah. In fact, if we're angry, usually what we say doesn't have a very good effect. But if we can speak up with kindness, with compassion, because there are those who suffer, we can have a profound impact. And our own heart is strong and clear and sure. So this morning, I was reading the New York Times online, yeah. And so some of you may have read too about what's happening in the NFL and what happened, to one of the NBL, NBA. And
then there's the major baseball, MPL.
Okay, so there's a lot of initials here, yeah, for sports leagues. I don't know them all, yeah, because basically, for me, people get so emotional about what happens to a ball. Yeah. And, I grew up in, my dad watching, different kinds of footballs and basketballs and golf. And, everything's so important, what happens to a ball. And my nephew is into football. And so the family joke is he's the only reason that I look at any football now, because I have to understand what he talks about, because I don't understand it. Yeah. But it's like, anyway, what happens to a ball is just really important to people. So be it. Yeah, it doesn't make much sense to me. But, yeah, what I did notice this morning is in London, there were two US teams playing each other, and players on both sides kneeled during the national anthem, you know, and the players who didn't kneel stood up and they all locked arms, all of them. And one of the owners of one of the teams, who is a Pakistani immigrant to the US, he went down there and he stood with the players who were all locking arms together. Yeah, they weighed about twice as much as he did and were a whole head taller. He was down there, that owner, with the team. And I was going, you know, and they were just completely silent, everybody, while the song played, but they sent out a message. Yeah, the ones who were kneeling said, our country has values and ideals of equality that we need to live up to. And it's important that we live up to what our own stated values are. The people who locked arms were saying, because yesterday and also this morning, and also Friday night, the president had really trashed some of the leagues and some of the players. And they were just standing there, locked arms, saying, we have our own dignity with our sport, and, you know, harsh words, critical words are not welcome here. Yeah. So they didn't have to say anything. It was just what they did. And to me, it showed an image of unity that I thought was quite tremendous. Yeah, despite the president saying that the owners should just fire or suspend anybody who didn't stand up for the national anthem. And then told all the fans that they should boycott the games because of what the players were doing. And to see, you know, these people, big guys, just be strong and quiet and get their message across. And I really respected that. Yeah, I really respected that. Because to me, they're honoring what the principles and values that our country was founded on. And they're speaking up for those and saying, as Americans, we need to come back to what's really important, which is in here, and how we treat others. So I think in the song when it said, I would be strong because there are those who suffer, you know, they were doing that. What they did was an illustration of that to me. I know not all of you may agree, but we can still smile at each other, can't we? I would be brave because there is much to dare. What does much to dare mean? Does it mean there is much danger? Or does it mean to dare to push ourselves beyond our own self-imposed limits? Yeah, I will be brave, and instead of just telling myself, I can't do this, I'm unqualified, I'm stupid, all this negative self-talk that most of us suffer from, to be brave towards that negative self-talk and say, you're rubbish. You know, all this self-hatred, low self-esteem, putting ourselves down it's all rubbish way of thinking. Yeah, and to stand up to our own self-sabotaging ways of thinking. Yeah. Because the enemy is not so much outside. The enemy is our self-centeredness, our own ignorance, clinging, and animosity. Yeah, so to be brave against that. Okay, so that's just a few thoughts to share about the songs that we sang. Because I think that, that chanting and singing together has a very powerful effect on us as individuals and as a group. And so it's important to think about the words that we're saying, yeah, and take them to heart and use them to question ourselves, to transform our attitudes. Yeah, not just to feel good because we're singing together, but to really take to heart the messages. Okay, thank you.